Hi everyone, this is Point Trippers. A trip just for father and son. This is day 2 of their sightseeing adventure. There are 2 major places in Egypt where you can see pyramids. The first is the famous Giza Pyramid Complex, home to the Great Pyramid that most people picture when they think of Egypt. These pyramids were built between 2600 and 2500 BC, about 4600 to 4700 years ago, during Egypt's 4th dynasty. Giza is a city just across the Nile from Cairo, so the pyramids are surprisingly close to the urban center. The other pyramid site is Saqqara. Saqqara served as the royal necropolis for Memphis, Egypt's first capital. It's considered the prototype for Giza, with pyramids that were built about a century earlier. This is where you'll find the Step Pyramid, the very first pyramid ever built, along with the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid. They're smaller than the ones at Giza, but they hold unique historical value, offering a glimpse into the early efforts of ancient Egyptians to construct pyramids. Saqqara is about an hour from Cairo and 30 to 40 minutes south of Giza. Fortunately, there was a tour package on Expedia that focused just on Saqqara, which my husband decided to book. Instead of hiring a full guide, he just arranged for a driver, like they did the day before when visiting the old Cairo churches. The cost was $13 for 2 people, for about 6 hours. For comparison, tours with a guide usually range from $40 to $50 for 2 people, depending on the day. Some packages include both a guide and admission fees, and those go up to around $80 to $100. A guide would have been helpful, but to cut costs, he went with just the driver. These days, even AI can serve as a pretty decent tour guide. As for entrance fees, there were bundled options available, but since our son qualifies for a 50% student discount, it made more sense for them to buy tickets separately at each site. Once again, he used Expedia One Key Cash, earned from a credit card promotion. And as before, he gave the driver a separate $10 tip. This time, the driver spoke good English, so he was able to explain a lot during the ride. It turns out he's actually a licensed guide, but since my husband only booked a driver, he didn't enter the sites with them. Still, he helped out with things like buying tickets. Their first stop was the Step Pyramid, built by Pharaoh Djoser around 2670 BC. It stands about 60 meters tall. Visitors are allowed to touch it, and for an extra fee, you can go inside as well. They bought tickets that included interior access. The total was $26 for 1 adult and 1 student. Standing right in front of it was overwhelming, they said. And going inside a real pyramid? That was something truly unforgettable. The interior of the Step Pyramid isn't too cramped. There's not much need to duck down while walking through. It's not decorated with carvings or artwork, but inside, there's a chamber where you can look down into the burial space from above. On the north side of the pyramid is Djoser's Serdab, a small sealed room with a statue of the pharaoh. There's a tiny peephole that lets you view the statue from outside. Just a short walk past the Step Pyramid, there's a small mound, which is actually another pyramid, the Pyramid of Unas. Originally, my husband and son had planned to see only the Step Pyramid and leave, but their driver suggested they check out the Unas Pyramid as well, so they decided to go in. The Pyramid of Unas once had the classic pyramid shape, but over time, it partially collapsed, leaving the top flat. Inside, you can see pyramid texts, ancient spells and inscriptions carved into the walls. At the very back, there's still a stone sarcophagus. To get there, they had to crouch as they moved through the passage. It was a bit warm inside, they said. There are other pyramids nearby too. Based on the driver's recommendation, they also visited the Pyramid of Teti. That pyramid has more detailed hieroglyphics and carvings, left behind over 4,000 years ago. Just incredible. Next, they drove about 30 minutes to visit the Red Pyramid and the Bent Pyramid. These sites are managed separately, so they had to pay a new entrance fee. But interior access to the pyramids was included at no extra cost. The Red Pyramid has the familiar pyramid shape that most people recognize. It was built around 2600 BC, using reddish limestone, giving it its color. It's believed to be the burial site of Pharaoh Sneferu. Interestingly, the entrance to this pyramid is located halfway up the structure. Getting up there isn't easy. Thankfully, it was April, so the weather was manageable. But in the summer, probably exhausting. To go inside, they had to crouch and walk about 60 meters through a narrow, sloping tunnel. It was hot inside, and overall not the most comfortable experience. Inside, there were people meditating, making low, rhythmic sounds. Perhaps it was because they were in the very heart of the pyramid, hoping to feel some kind of special energy. Unlike the pyramids in Giza, these ones are far from the city, deep in the desert. That gives the whole area a completely different atmosphere. There were far fewer tourists too, which made the experience more peaceful and pleasant. Right next to it is the Bent Pyramid. This pyramid has a very unique shape. It starts with a steep 54-degree angle, but halfway up, it changes to 43 degrees. Historians believe the builders adjusted the angle to avoid collapse as the weight increased. Later pyramids, like the ones in Giza, followed lessons learned from the Bent Pyramid and were built with a more stable angle, around 51 to 53 degrees. One really interesting feature is that the Bent Pyramid still has its original limestone casing on the outside. All pyramids were once covered like this, smooth, shiny, and often white or light in color. But here, you can still get a glimpse of how stunning they originally looked. The Bent Pyramid was also built by Sneferu, around 2600 BC. On the way back north toward Cairo, my husband and son made a quick stop at the Mit Rahina Open-Air Museum, known for its enormous statue of Ramses II. There, a 10-meter-long statue lies on its side, making it easy to take photos. Outside, there's also a small sphinx and other sculptures to see. The entrance fee was about $6 for both of them. Admission fees add up faster than expected. Foreigners often pay higher rates, so Egypt isn't quite as cheap as it may seem. At this point, they were already approaching the halfway mark of our $500 trip budget. But then came an unexpected expense. My husband asked the driver to drop them off at any local restaurant near the Giza area for lunch. But they ended up at a buffet-style place clearly designed for group tourists. It had a view of the Giza pyramids, which was nice, but lunch cost $15 per person, and drinks were another $6. A total of $36 for a meal that, frankly, wasn't all that memorable. He admits he should have said no, but it was hard to refuse in the moment. So, if you plan to use this kind of tour setup, I'd suggest asking the driver to stop at a restaurant you pass along the way, or even go back to your hotel for food. This place wasn't worth the price, and $36 is no small splurge, even by US standards. They didn't head straight back to the hotel because they wanted to visit GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum. The GEM is Egypt's new flagship museum, set to officially open in July 2025. While it may not be as large as the Louvre, it will be home to the world's largest collection of ancient Egyptian artifacts. At the moment, only a few exhibition halls are open ahead of the grand opening. Having visited the Louvre and the British Museum already, My husband thought this museum has a strong chance of becoming one of the top 3, 4, or 5 museums in the world in the near future. Even though it's not officially open, the admission fee is quite high: 1,270 Egyptian pounds for adults, 635 for students, which comes out to about $37. On their way back to the hotel, my husband called an Uber. The fare was around $2, which was very cheap, but the issue was that some drivers sent him personal messages asking for extra cash. When he turned them down, 3 different drivers canceled the ride and didn't show up. So, my husband decided to pay just $1 extra for a higher tier ride, Uber Comfort, and this time the car showed up without any problems. If you ever face a similar situation, just pay that extra $1 for a higher class car. It'll save you a lot of hassle. The total fare to the hotel? $3. They returned to the hotel around 4 p.m. After grabbing some free drinks in the lounge, they headed straight for the pool. That evening, the hotel lounge served chicken curry as the main dish, and apparently, it was way better than the $30 lunch buffet they had earlier. My husband still couldn't let it go, though. He kept complaining about how we saved up all this money, but ended up spending $36 on that meal and drinks. But don't worry, at the end, I'll make that $36 disappear. Tomorrow, they'll be heading to Alexandria. They'll take a bus, and conveniently, there's a terminal for Go Bus, Egypt's largest intercity bus company, just across the street from the hotel. The bus leaves at 7:47 a.m. Since they'll be back the next day, they plan to leave their luggage at the Ramses Hilton for safekeeping. So that's it for today's update. See you in the next video, where they explore Alexandria. That's it from Point Trippers. Thanks for watching.